this episode of Newfoundland Hobbyist. So we got a really fun video today, a fun project coming up that I've been waiting to do for a long time. This is a Russian-built Mosin Nagant made in 1946. The rifle doesn't look exactly like it did from factory, but these guns originally had a lot of wood up around the barrel here, some steel clamps and stuff. These were surplus built rifles, chambered in 7.62 by 54R. So it's a fairly big round. These were known to be fantastic rifles and really collectible with all that wood stock. Now this rifle has something done to it called sporterizing. It's a word they come out with, and after the war was done, what they did was they removed all that bulky material a lot of people did and made them a little more practical gun. Removed a lot of weight and a lot of that clumsiness and made it look a little more like a modern day rifle. This gun hasn't been fired in quite some time, and so today we're up here to fire a few shots out of it and make sure it's running well. Like I said, it hasn't been running for a while. Got a target set up back in this corner. If it runs well, we're going to do some fun work to it. I figure there's no point in doing all the work to it if it doesn't fire, if the firing pin is gone or something like that. I don't think it'll be a problem, but we're going to find out right now. So this ammunition we're using here, this is MFS ammunition. Like I said, 7.62 by 54R. It's a 203 grain bullet. This is a big round. It's a big bullet. This ammunition was sponsored by Outdoor Pros here in Newfoundland. Thank you very much, guys. Any shooting you see done in this video now, ammunition is all sponsored by Outdoor Pros. So thank you big time for that. Shooting isn't cheap. Any of you shooters out there will know it's fairly expensive to shoot. Rounds are expensive, especially when you're talking about rounds this size, and it really helps to have someone supporting you. Here is that round. So you can see, look at the length, the size of that bullet. Big cartridge. The actual casing of the bullet here is fairly similar to a 308 casing. So here it goes. No safety on this rifle, and I don't have any clips for it either. I'll drop a round in, close that bolt, and there it is. Here we go. It's the first shot in probably a decade or more. Whew! That actually wasn't too bad. Nice spent casing. That felt great. Oh, man. Nailed her. Well, we've got a whole bunch of empty casings here now in our pockets. I'll take them home just in case I get into reloading 7.62 later on. But this gun fires fantastic and is a ton of fun to shoot. We've been having a grand time here. Now it's time to head back to the workshop and talk about exactly what we're going to do with this rifle to make it just a gorgeous collector's piece. I got some really cool ideas I think you'll really enjoy. So we're back in the shop with the 1946 Mosin Nagant. This thing fired excellently. We had a ton of fun shooting it. Shot a lot of rounds, hit the steel decent amount of times, not every time, but did well. The iron sights is different. I mean, this day and age, usually with big, higher caliber rifles like this, you're used to more refined optics, scopes and such. These sights are a little bit, I mean, they work well, they work great, but they're a little bit crude. I know a lot of people swap them out and stuff. They certainly did their job in the time though. here's what I have planned. This stock is fairly beat up, so we're going to break down the gun, and I definitely know I'm going to refinish the stock. So that means I'm going to strip it down, resurface it, and then I'm not sure the color we're going with yet for the final product. As for the steel, all the hardware, I have something in mind, but it might upset some of you. So let me explain something first. This rifle has been sporterized right from the start. If this was in original condition, still packed in Cosmoline, or it had everything their numbers matching, I wouldn't dare touch it. It holds a lot of resale value and a real lot of sentimental value in that case then too. I mean, it would be a real special thing to have. This rifle, like I said, has been sporterized, so that collector's value is gone. So no need to comment on that or to think, wow, he's spoiling or tearing apart that collector's piece. It's not really a collector's piece at this point. Now that we've got that out of the way, this is our family rifle. It's been in the family for a lot of years, and in my opinion, this is my thoughts on it. If it's my rifle that I'm going to own for decades and decades to come, why wouldn't I want to make it exactly how I want it? Why would I care about that collector's value when it's going to take some of the enjoyment out of it for me? It's not a collector's piece now, so I'm going to at least make it exactly how I want for shooting purposes, okay? So, I know you guys, you history buffs and such, might get a little upset, maybe change the channel if you need to, but we're going to be doing some work. All that said, what I think I'm going to attempt to do is mirror polish all the steel on this rifle. It's going to be a challenge, it's going to be a lot of work. I've done a nice bit of mirror polishing of steel before, and based on that, I think it's doable, and I think it'll look amazing if we can pull it off. So, first things first, let's start breaking it down and see how big of a challenge that's going to be. Let's remove the bolt. So our bolt's out. This is a really clean bolt, it's in great shape. We'll decide what to do with that later. Now we have a few flathead screws to be removed from the rifle. So first off, here we have a screw on the underside of the trigger assembly. So let's just take that one out. That one came out pleasantly easy. So that's a one piece out. Now we'll flip over and we have one right up here. When this one comes out, we should be able to pull out the trigger assembly and separate the rifle. So let's pull, here we go. Look at the nice dark bluing here on what's inside the gun, just a beautiful finish. Now, here we go. Very simple. We're left with pretty much just our wooden stock now. We just got to haul this plate up the end here. Hopefully that comes off as easy. There. That plate is off. You can see that's a rough one there. A lot of dirt and grime in there behind it as well. The last thing we have is this steel pin that goes through the stock up here. Based on my personal experience, these can be real tough sometimes. So this is a bolt through the stock, and this side has a carriage style head, so it's just smooth and round, nothing to grab onto. And this side has two little holes, so I just use a pair of these sort of retainer ring pliers. And sometimes, oh, this one's going to come out real easy. Man, what a joy it is to take apart this rifle. When they're clean like this, it's really easy. So this part you're really going to hate. Let's just get it out of the way first. This rifle used to have a side mounting bayonet. Now the bayonet for this rifle no longer exists. We don't have it. Also, we don't like bayonets. I can't stand a bayonet. I bought an SKS recently that had all the original matching bayonet and stuff on it, and the first thing I did was take the bayonet off. I am going to cut these tabs off. We have a welded ring here, so I'm going to have to cut these tabs off and just make the ring look continuous all the way around. This is an easy job. This isn't difficult for me. Done lots of this type of work before. I'm going to make sure I keep the barrel cooled while I'm cutting, so I have my block of ice here that I'll continuously run over it, and it's an easy job and it'll look a lot better. I'll be a lot happier with it when it's done. Safety protection, got my angle grinder here. I'm going to just lightly snip those two tabs off. So after cutting those tabs off and just a few minutes on my belt sander, this is what we're left with. Just a smooth, clean steel ring. When this is all done and the rifle's finished, you'll never know that bayonet was on there unless you really know something about these rifles and knew that they came with it. I have that action clamped in my voice here now, and I don't usually make a habit of having the wrong end of the barrel pointed at my throat, but since the gun is completely disassembled and it's just metal parts there, I think I'll let it slide. I'm starting off with some 220 grit paper. I'm just going to start working this barrel here, and there's still some fine milling marks there from when the barrel was originally turned. So I'm just going to start working this finish down and see how it behaves, see how the steel holds up. This is some really hard steel. I noticed when working it then for these tabs coming off, really tough steel. So I'm just going to start working it here with the paper and see how easily it works. This is a progress update. This is probably about 2 hours work here, and we had the first grit 220 done. Now the first grit is by far the toughest because that's the one where you got to get rid of any deep scratches or anything. The other stages for finer grits happen really quickly, but you can see that nice pretty barrel there, and then down here to the action. Look at that. What a nice finish that is turning out to be. Beautiful. This would be a lovely finish to leave. You could just leave it alone and it would be lovely, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go up to 400 grit now. We'll see what kind of difference that makes. Now here's some useful information about polishing. A good buffing wheel on either an angle grinder, or I've got a nice little one here, a felt wheel on my bench grinder. A good buffing wheel like that with some polishing compound can really do wonders with a final finish. I've got 2000 grit sandpaper finish here now, which is beautiful. It's a lovely finish. There's some hazy marks and stuff there, but it's about as good as I can get it for the time I have. But this buffing wheel now, when I get on there with the compound, that high RPM, it'll really put the life in it and just make it gleam. It's an amazing thing, and it's so addicting to do. It's one of the things I didn't realize when I was younger, is that any steel can be polished to a mere polish. You just have to bring it up through a stage of grits until it's a fine enough grit that the surface will reflect. So it's really cool. Anything you want to polish, your knives or anything like that. The same principle applies to everything. So have some fun, see what you can polish. I'm going to go ahead and run this over some compound, and let's see what kind of finish we have. It is just unreal what a buffing wheel can do. Just 2000 grit alone, you think you have an amazing finish. It looks so nice, looks so pretty. You couldn't imagine it getting much better. But then you throw that buffing wheel on it, and it just completely transforms. As much as I enjoy staring at that beautiful finish, gotta stop because we got a lot of work left to do. All that trigger group, the bolt, and the stock. So we've got a big part. This is a big part of the job. Perhaps the most daunting part of the job is complete. We're gonna haul that barrel out of there now. Man, that's so pretty. Get to work on the stock. So after polishing all that barrel in action, I'm going right to the stock before I touch any of the other components. And the reason for that is I want to see what kind of color I'm going to get on this stock first. Because with that chromed barrel in action, if this wood turns out a lighter color or different color than I want, then I may choose to polish the trigger group to match the barrel here, or I may choose to clean it up and re-blue it so it's real nice and black. So I'm going to get to work on the stock now. Use my angle grinder here with a flat disc, and I'm just going to very lightly resurface this stock. It's got a lot of nicks and dents and chips took out of the wood, so we're going to clean that up big time. Also, going to profile down. I'm going to mount this in our lovely vise here. With the amount of dust flying around here now and that old varnish coming off, very important to have a respirator on. Now is the sandpaper. Again, no easy way around this, just a lot of manual labor. Got some 80 grit paper here. I'm going to start working. So after quite some time filing down that grip, super thin there now. It feels beautiful. A lot more like the modern rifles. You can really get your hand around it nicely. Everything's cleaned up, shaped just like I want it, and I've sanded it up to 400 grit. For those of you interested in doing your own gun stocks, this whole project as a whole is a fair-sized project, but just refinishing a gun stock is not a big deal. If any of you have old guns laying around and you've been a bit intimidated to do them, I recommend going ahead and giving it a try. Rifles are pretty easy to break down, pretty easy to put back together, not much that can go wrong. And you take your time, you can really do a good job on this stock and really make a difference. When it's done, it's almost like you got a whole new rifle. Just feels great to do something yourself like that. Now it's time for finish, and I have a few different options here. I think I know what I'm going to go with. So you can see with all that material stripped off, it's a much lighter color stock. It's actually very pretty. Nice light color. I really like it. If you were doing some re-bluing your metal so it was real dark, almost a black, I think it would look awesome against this light color. we went with the mirror polish, so I'd like something darker to contrast the stock. Yeah, it's in great shape, looks beautiful there now. I'm going to go with, I think this finish right here. This is a Jacobean by Minwax. Jacobean, if any of you are looking for this a similar color. This is going to look almost black when I'm applying it, but it should go almost like a black walnut type color. I recently did an SKS stock with this stuff, and it was beautiful. So you can see it's really dark looking stain. Now I like this finish, but in my mind, when I'm picturing that that bright, shiny barrel in action and everything, I'm picturing a little more in the red tones for the wood. So I've got some Minwax. This is a gun color here, gun stock 231, and it has more of a reddish tone. So I'm just going to, I've never done this before, but I'm going to try to overlay some of that reddish tone and just see what happens to the color. So just rub that in there a little bit. Okay, that's getting a little closer to the color I'm looking for. It's very, very subtle. Just reddens it just a little touch. You see when you're putting it on there, it's really orangey red. So this is about the best I could get right now. It's about the reddest I could get. It certainly is more red than just with the Jacobean alone, or the Jacobean, sorry. But it's not quite as red as I would like, even though I did a few coats of the gun stock, which is a really reddish color. What I think I'll do is let it dry, let it really dry out overnight now, and then maybe give it a coat or two tomorrow. So when it's nice and dry, then it should soak in that other lot of stain much better. We're getting close, even if this is the best I get. I mean, I still love this color, but just like it a little more on the red side. It is so cold here in the shop this morning, and I let that stock dry overnight, and I got a nice dark color I wanted. So we're at the very last stages of the project. All I'm doing now is taking all those components. I've already sanded them through movie magic. You guys didn't have to bear with me through all that. You can come in near the end. So I've got that bowl. I decided to polish the works of it. So just wait till you see what we're going to put together. So here is that finish we got on the stock. I've got a little bit of oil in there now, and in my opinion it looks great. I got that red tone in there that I wanted. It's just perfect. I could still do with it a little bit darker, but I absolutely love it like this. Time to start putting our parts together, starting with the buttstock. Okay, now time to see that barrel go in there. Then we have our polished trigger group here. I think I'm real happy I polished the works of it. So here we have it, our custom 1946 Mosin Nagant. I am in love with how this rifle turned out. The stock is just how I wanted it. The color is great. That narrowed grip now makes it a beautiful feel for getting in a trigger for my size of hand. The steel, the polishing, although a ton of work, was well worth it. I really love it. It's just going to be a real special piece to look at and to shoot once in a while. Really hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for watching the Newfoundland Hobbyist.